This video provides an overview of the range setting capabilities within the GTT Opticom IR and Opticom GPS systems. There are a few concepts about setting ranges that span both the IR system and the GPS system that will be reviewed in this video. First, one of the most important ideas is that it is possible to set uniquely different ranges for high-priority emergency vehicles compared to low-priority transit vehicles. This is important because in an EVP application, the goal is to provide as much time as possible to allow the emergency vehicle to place a call far enough in advance to allow traffic to clear. In a TSP application, the goal is to provide priority without affecting the normal traffic signal controller behavior too much and to only request a slight advantage for the traveling bus. Second, it is possible to set different ranges by direction. Sometimes traffic engineers look to design long ranges for a mainline movement and short ranges for side street movements. Within both the IR system and the GPS system, this is possible. Lastly, it is possible to set different ranges for different vehicle classes, express buses versus local buses, or ladder trucks versus chief vehicles, for example. Let's start with IR. IR triggering points are based on infrared light intensity between the vehicle and the signalized intersection. When the vehicle reaches the threshold that you have set, an output is made from the phase selector to the traffic controller. Units of intensity within the Opticom IR system are expressed using a GTT unique scale ranging from 0 to 1200. Within the ONSITE help file, there is a rough translation of how these intensity units translate to feet. The factory default range setting for high priority is set at 300, approximately 2,500 feet with clear direct line of sight, while the default range setting for low priority is set at 1,200, basically off. Lower intensity values means the vehicle can be further away in making a request. There are three methods for setting the ranges. The first that we will discuss is to use the range setting screen within the configuration profiles section of the ONSITE software. This is the easiest method, but it is also the least accurate method because you are only estimating the activation point. In the right section of the screen is a button labeled Edit Range Settings. Within the range settings, notice that there are three columns to view and edit. The left column is where you would select the direction or channel. Notice that there are selections for both the primary detector and advanced detectors on each approach. Sometimes it will be necessary to program unique ranges for advanced detectors that are different from primary detectors. Also notice that there are unique settings available for both high and low priority for each approach. The middle column is where you would select the desired vehicle class if different ranges for different vehicle classes are needed. Be sure to select all classes if you want identical range settings across all vehicle types. The right column is where you would set the minimum desired intensity triggering value. Once range settings are entered, be sure to save these changes by clicking on the Write to Device button. The second and third method for range setting involve placing an Opticom equipped vehicle on the road at a point where you want the activation to start. You may use a range setting emitter with a range setting switch. This method requires only one person. You may also use any emitter, but this method will require a second person at the traffic cabinet. The second and third methods are more accurate, but do require more effort. Now let's review range settings for GPS. There's often a misunderstanding that GPS triggering points are based on the length of the approach map drawn using the approach map editor in ONSITE. It is not possible to draw the zones too long, but they can be drawn too short. It is very important that the approach zones be drawn long enough. If the zones are drawn too short, then the ETA and distance values used to trigger the output will not be used. The Creating Opticom GPS Approach Zones video addresses the best practices in drawing approach maps. GPS triggering points are determined by the values entered within the range settings section in ONSITE when approach map lengths are long enough. Triggering points are set using either estimated time of arrival or distance. The factory default range setting for high priority is set at 30 seconds ETA or 1,000 feet, whichever comes first. Similarly, the factory default range setting for low priority is also 30 seconds ETA or 1,000 feet. Once the vehicle reaches one of these minimum triggering values, an output to a traffic controller will be made. If you are setting ranges for low priority, remember to also enable low priority, which is disabled by default. Again, range settings are set within the Configuration Profiles section of the ONSITE software. In the right section of the screen is a button labeled Edit Range Settings. Again, within range settings, notice that there are 3 columns to view and edit. The left column is where you'd select the direction or channel for the GPS thresholds for each approach. Again, notice that there are unique settings available for both high and low priority for each approach. The middle column is where you would select the desired vehicle class if different ranges for different vehicle classes are needed. There are a few more classes in GPS to choose from compared to IR. Be sure to select all classes if you want identical range settings across all vehicle types. And again, the right column is where you would select the minimum desired triggering thresholds, both for ETA and distance. Once range settings are entered, be sure to save these changes by clicking on the Write to Device button. If you have more questions about range settings, please consult the ONSITE help file or contact GTT technical support.